Hi everyone, happy hump day. I hope hump day is actually a saying that you say in the US as well as Australia. I always worry these days because sometimes I say things and people think, what are you saying? Anyway, that's a story for another day. I wanted to jump on here and talk to you about something that will probably shock you. Now, before I started my journey, my family's journey in fighting symptoms with food, I was stressed, overwhelmed, angry all the time, and I feel bad saying it. I felt bad saying that, talking about that with people because I didn't know if that was a common thing. I was constantly stressing about how to manage my child's ADHD and anxiety symptoms, and I just felt out of control. I felt our family was out of control, and if that sounds similar to you, and you're looking to bring back that peace and that calm in your house, then you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for the next 2 minutes or so. Sorry if in advance if it's a little bit longer or shorter. I'm going to reveal a strategy that really helped us immensely in our journey. I hope that sounds good. If it does, say yes in the comments and stay with me. So just firstly, my name's Dana. I work with families who have a child or children that are impacted by ADHD or anxiety to help them reduce or get better control over their child's symptoms. I'm a board certified holistic health and nutrition practitioner, but most importantly, I am a mum of 2 boys. I'm very open in this group about the struggles that I have faced during my journey with my children, especially my oldest who has ADHD and anxiety. I have been there. I've been in that chaos, in that craziness, in those tantrums, so I know exactly what you're going through. My son, I've said this before, but for those of you who are new to the group, my son was my motivation to lead me to specialized studies in this area, to nutrition school, and then to my holistic health degree. He's what led me to opening my own practice, and he's what led me to creating the nutrition method for kids, fighting symptoms with food, as I always say. So moving on to the interesting part, I conducted a Facebook Live a couple of weeks ago on what the fuss is all about with gluten. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about that here today. But I also want to add in dairy because, that has been a topic of conversation in the group. Or more importantly, the proteins contained in each of them. The protein contained in dairy is casein, so more importantly about that. As I think that what I'm going to tell you might actually resonate with a lot of you. So one problem with gluten and dairy is actually the potential for them to create opiates. Yes, opiates, as in the drugs like morphine and heroin. You're probably thinking to yourself, what does that have to do with gluten and dairy? That's what I thought when I first learned about this. But I'm going to share with you now what it has to do with gluten and dairy. Firstly, I think it's important to understand that opioid drugs act by binding to receptors in neurons in our brain and other parts of our body. And these opioid receptors are normally responsible for many different processes in the body. These receptors can regulate the body's response to stress, to pain, breathing, temperature, mood, motivation, digestive activity. And now in individuals who have gut inflammation, which is commonly referred to as leaky gut, you might have heard of that, which a large percentage of our children with ADHD and anxiety have. The enzymes in their gut are not fully breaking down casein and gluten. So what happens as a result are these compounds are formed called casomorphins, and the protein structure of casomorphins is similar to that of morphine. So they're absorbed in the bloodstream through the gut, because they have that leaky gut going on, and they cross the blood-brain barrier and they bind to these opiate receptors in the brain, as well as along the GI tract, and they can create an opiate-like effect. Now, I'm going to talk a bit now how that may relate to your child, but how it related to my son specifically. So my son used to have these meltdowns where he just literally was like an alien from another planet. Sorry in advance to my son if you are watching this later, but it was as if he couldn't control himself, or anything that he did when it happened. It happened like bam, out of nowhere. Just think about people addicted to morphine. They have similar episodes. They also sometimes are unable to handle challenging situations or transitions, sitting still. But then at other times, they are perfectly capable of handling these challenging situations or following through with multiple tasks. And you can totally see how it makes sense. Now, when we remove these inflammatory substances when we remove these inflammatory substances out of my son's diet, he personally experienced a 90% improvement in the reduction of his hyperactivity and his energy levels. He was more in control of his body and calm, and he had a lot less tantrums. He handled transitions better. He was less anxious in certain situations. He was able to focus better and sit still at school and at home while doing his homework. He had less headaches, but best of all, he was more content in his body and he was happier. But you know what also happened? I was happier. And so just think about what I've said today and see if you can see this pattern in your child. And if you do, they might benefit from removing gluten and dairy from their diet. So hopefully that's given you a little bit to think about today. I really want you to comment below if you resonate with this, if you can see these patterns in your child, and what it might look like for you. Hope you all have a great Wednesday. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.